Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Her in the Huddle, WOVU's Look at Sports, featuring the First Lady of Sports, Rachel Hill.
Hey, that's my cue. No bars today. This is Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, up in here. And I am with Sugar Booger. Sugar Booger, what's up, sir?
Oh, man, I'd be better if this mic was on.
Oh, that's
there
right.
We go. Hey. I feel like you wanted me to have a platform, but you weren't ready for me to take it.
I did. My bad.
I'm
good, sorry about
Rachel.
That.
I'm glad you skipped out on the bars today. I got to be honest with you. I like it when you just get down to business, when you're not out here trying to be a rapper. We got enough rappers. We don't have enough female sports hosts.
For a second, I thought you was talking about like bars that serve alcohol. You know,
No,
I'll be having issues sometimes.
To encourage your vices.
You know, I'll be having issues
I'm
sometimes.
not encouraging your vices.
But I'm just like, bars? I haven't been to a bar today. I forgot. I'm like, I forgot just that quick that we were talking about rapping and 16 bars. How was your holiday?
Tremendous holiday. Had a good time. Went for a nice little barbecue with some friends.
Okay.
Had a little cookout, some festivities. So it was good, man. How about you?
Good. You just like the social butterfly. You know everybody in Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, Painesville. Just what county is Painesville in?
Lake County.
Lake County, Cuyahoga County, Portage County, Summit County.
Just Lake County. My reach only goes from Lake County.
Where county is Canton in? Stark County.
Stark. I got some Stark family.
Yeah, man.
Akron, Canton.
This is worldwide, man. I'm trying to be like you when I grow up.
You know, I just am nice to people. And,
everybody loves you.
Music and sports bring people together, and those happen to be the two things I enjoy too. So,
what's that song? Music did my soul.
I don't know the song. Music, so I don't know that record. The music makes my soul record.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard it before, but
you're talking about Music Makes Me High by the Lost Boys. That's my jam.
Oh,
music gives me one for the money now. We're already off topic, Rachel. This is what happens when we get together once a week. We get off topic immediately because we're just so excited about the opportunity to get together and talk sports.
I know. I'd be so happy to see you. I'm like, I love Wednesdays. Wednesdays are like part of my favorite. You know, we just have such a good time together. We have such great chemistry together.
For sure.
But, you know, I truly did hope that you had a good holiday. Did you go see fireworks?
No, but they were going off all over the neighborhood.
Okay.
I didn't have to go too far. They were everywhere.
So I was watching Investigation Discovery one day, and they were like, the state of...
Nerd alert.
It's murder mysteries. People, and my mother's like, why'd you watch that? I'm like, the people already died.
Right.
It's like reenactments at this point. But I hate to sound insensitive. I'm really sorry about that. But they said that like the city of Cleveland and pretty much the state of Ohio, people are notorious for setting off fireworks in communities when they're not supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
So this is something that the state of Ohio and the city of Cleveland is known for. So
the whole neighborhood was popping.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But they're still shooting off fireworks. And literally they were shooting off fireworks the beginning of June. Over by where I live at.
The Juneteenth celebration.
It was before that.
On June 1st.
And I'm just like,
July 4th goes to the end of July.
What are we celebrating? Yeah, so I didn't know there was a window, but I'm glad I know now.
And listen, if you've got
it depends on what time.
If you've got a veteran in your house with PTSD
I'm a veteran.
or something like that, I understand that. Like I understand there's some people that have PTSD and stuff. For me, I don't care what you do. Set off fireworks, let them pop off. You only do it for a couple months, and then it snows for 9 months. So we're fine. Rachel, before we get too deep, we were talking about, as we do each and every Wednesday, we have our little text where you send me what topics we're going to talk about. But there's one that we didn't have on the list, and I don't know if you addressed it yesterday, but I think it's a relevant topic, and that is WOVU sports policy. We just announced this week. We got a letter from an email from the staff here that we are no longer going to be referring to the Cleveland Baseball Organization by their former moniker. We will know, and I'll say it here in context. We're no longer going to be calling them the Cleveland Indians or the Tribe. We're going to get away from that type of language. Refer to them as the Cleveland baseball team or another name like that as they get ready to make their transition. It's a touchy subject in Cleveland. There's a lot of people that aren't happy about that, and there's a lot of people that are happy we're getting away from it. No matter what, and we've already said it, it's going to be tough the first couple of weeks, especially as we're making that transition, because we're so used to saying those words. But what do you feel about that as we make this transition? They change their name.
I'm in agreement with that. They haven't officially changed their name just yet, so they still are who they are. So it's very hard to not say that. I only slipped up one time yesterday, but Willie Epting of the Shape Back Sports Network, my show host on Tuesday, immediately corrected me, and we hold each other accountable and stuff like that. But I think it's very important. There's only a certain subset of people are mad about the name change, and their philosophy is it's not offensive to me, so it's not offensive at all. And that's the complete opposite. There are other people outside of you in the world who it is bothered. They are bothered by it. So I'm all for it, and I'm just going to do my best to respect the wishes of our listeners.
It really came into light for me, especially over the last week or so. I shouldn't say especially, but brought to my attention again. I don't know if you've been following the story that's mainly out of Canada, but some northern states in the U.S. with the Canadian regional schools, where they've gone back into these schools and they found bodies of thousands of Indian children and Native American children, indigenous children from different tribes across Canada and the northern United States. And the Indian term, that they used at that time did have a negative connotation, and that's how they would put out literature that said bring the Indians to these schools and everything, and it wasn't their how to represent their culture. So as we did that this week, that was a prominent news story, and I researched a little bit, and it's like, it's just time to not do it. It's just time to not do it anymore. It's time to get off of it. Name your team after an animal or a landmark, or I'm not even against calling them the Cleveland baseball team. And if people call them something else within the confines of their home or something like that, then that's what they do, but I'm not even against that. And we were just talking earlier about football uniforms, the Browns football uniforms, because you posted the city blue Browns uniforms from 1998 that looked like the old NBA. I used to have the NBA jean jackets with all the patches, all the teams.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that Browns uniform you posted. I almost blocked you, but I didn't. But we were talking about uniforms and, talk about how the Washington football team, I kind of like what they did. I kind of like how they're kind of scaled back, and it's kind of about the colors and about the, scaled back version of that team. Other sports don't have nicknames internationally, like the Liverpool Football Club and soccer teams, things like that.
Yeah.
They've kind of gotten away from that. Maybe it's just time for us. But the problem is America, these sports, we identify so much with these sports. And it's the city and regional aspect of these teams. It's really hard to get people to buy into not having a nickname for the teams.
Well, also, too, white people like to center everything on themselves as well. And no offense to you, but I know you down for the struggle. But that is where part of the problem lies, because people feel like that term isn't offensive to them. It's not offensive to anybody. And how they feel is more important than anybody else, because I'm a privileged white, heterosexual man in America, and my opinion is the only one that matters. And I'm the final word and authority on the situation. So, you have people who center themselves in every situation, don't think about other people. They're not empathetic. They're not sympathetic. And that's part of the problem that, we've seen that. We've seen that throughout the pandemic. Absolutely. How people, are not interested in what's best for everyone. Absolutely. They only care about themselves, not what's best for us as a whole. Because I like not having polio. I understand people not getting their vaccinations, measles, rubella, all that stuff that we are vaccinated against, and I didn't see people talking about how these shots were propaganda back then. Maybe there were some people, but they were too busy trying to learn how to walk again, because polio just was eradicated around the world, because it was still an third country that did not have modern medicine. 100%. So people, can say whatever they want to, but polio wasn't gone. It literally, there was a news story about it just being eradicated. 100%. But that's because people are so centered on self and didn't even realize these problems exist. And they can always make a comeback in America through people 100%. Who are not vaccinated.
And we're finding out with this Delta variant that's coming back around. That's getting hard too. So, but
Delta variant.
Oh boy, that should be the name of your autobiography.
That's a good name.
I just think just getting back and kind of wrapping up on the thing. I am a white male, middle-aged guy,
heterosexual,
and I can't believe, heterosexual male. So I check all the privilege boxes. I can't imagine myself getting that upset because the name of a sports team that neither pays me, does not ask me for my opinion, does not have any impact on my life other than I get together with friends, I watch ball games, and I enjoy it. And I listen, I've got my Cleveland baseball team gear on today. You know, I like my Cleveland baseball team. I like all my teams. I like my Ohio State Buckeyes. If Buckeyes became an offensive term, it would be hard for me to let go of Buckeyes, right? That's tough. But you know what? My life is going to go on. If it's bad for somebody, if it's going to hurt people, if it's going to be something that's hatred-filled and inspires hate, then let me just get off it. I don't care.
But you mentioned something key point, and you have a life. People who don't have a life and they identify. And throughout the pandemic, I realized how much I identified with sports when there was no sports on TV. Yeah. I didn't have a show because our station was closed. Right. And there were no games for me to cover. True. I realized how much I identified, but I also have a life outside of that. I have friends, I have family, and other things to keep me occupied, even though we had a pandemic and things were very slow. You know, I have everything I need, but like you said, people don't have a life, and that's how they identify. Especially think about how sports are steeped in maleness and testosterone and 100%. Stuff like that. So that stuff plays a role in people's, and we talk a lot about mental, but people, they are so far gone sometimes. Think about people with obsessive behaviors and stalking and stuff like that. But when you meet you the first time, you might not necessarily know that you white. Because you do have olive skin, so it is questionable that you white. I wasn't entirely sure.
I've never done the DNA test, so I'm not sure.
But then you so cool and you down. I didn't realize. I'm like, shit, white. I didn't know that. Like, I really didn't know you were white at first.
That has a lot to do with just being cool with people, though, too. Like people wouldn't necessarily question that because I don't add. Like I'm coming from a privileged perspective when I'm talking with people, so I don't have that type of talk or that verbiage or that chip. I think that some people have, and they come for that. I know we've got to take a commercial in a couple minutes. When we come back, we're going to talk about something that I know you talked about yesterday, with the Rachel Nichols situation. But here's how I'm going to segue into that. The other side of you and sports too, though, is that you've had an up close, behind the scenes, very personal look at the racism and the bias behind the scenes. So when people are just fans and they're just watching and they don't want their team name to change and they think there's no bias, you know better than most about the bias that's behind the scenes too. So your perspective comes from a little bit of a different place than maybe the average fan too.
Yeah, say no more.
Right.
We got about 2 minutes left before we get into that. But yeah, I kind of, lit into it today. There's another radio station. I'm not going to mention them, but, I tweeted at them, don't defend her. You're better than that. So, we hit on it a little bit today, and I actually went on a rant, but we're going to go ahead and take a break really quickly. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM, and we will be back.
Vaden as we celebrate her 45-year career in gospel entertainment. Sunday, July 11th at 5 p.m. Celebrate Lovely D at Sanctuary Baptist Church, 4004 East 131st Street in Cleveland. The party starts at 5 p.m. and you don't want to miss all the special guests, including Bishop Joe Clark of An Inspiration and Pastor Arnold Smith from Voodoo Boys, along with hometown favorites Mary Glover and company,
Sing the song.
Boy Family, and new revelations, the Gospel Travelers, the Spiritual Believers, the Masters of Harmony, the Christian Brothers, and the Christian Redeemers, along with Master King. For more information, call 216-372-8466.
And then, what was it? Precious Minds, not Precious Minds. What was the one?
Come celebrate Sister Dolores Vaden as we mark her 45th year in gospel entertainment Sunday, 5 p.m. at Sanctuary Baptist Church. We'll see you there.
Attention listeners, we at WOVU 95.9 FM will no longer use Native American slang, referring to the Major League Baseball team here in Cleveland. Until the team chooses a new name ahead of the 2022 season, we will refer to it as the Cleveland Baseball Team.
Goes down to you're right.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU and 95.9 FM. Remember, you can always listen to us live on WOVU.org. Yep. You can give us a call at 216-271-0959. Make sure you download that WOVU app so you can take us on the go. So, Sugar Booger, I'm back in the studio with Sugar Booger. Me and him today on Wednesdays, giving it to you like you like it. But we were just starting to talk about the Rachel Nichols situation. Yeah. We touched on this a little bit yesterday. I said, I'm embarrassed her name is Rachel. But why don't you give your take on this situation?
Well, I learned about a new, something that I had never heard a term for this week, which is intersectional racism or intersectional bias.
Okay.
And that is where a lady like Maria Taylor not only faces racism, but sexism. And then there's that intersection where she's battling both at the same time. Rachel Nichols, her perspective, as I take it, is she's battled for racism, so she can't lose to, or she's battled for sexism, so she can't lose out to racism because she's been fighting one fight. So now if it comes down to race or sex, she's earned her stripes, and you're not allowed to give somebody an opportunity if they're a black woman because she's fighting for all women. And again, it's privilege once again. And it's embarrassing to hear what she was saying. First of all, on a personal level, take away everything else. How arrogant do you have to be to look at a young lady like Maria Taylor, who has worked hard? Granted, she's got a connection and an in, which I'm sure it would be nice for you to have Jalen Rose as a connection. That would be nice. Mm-hmm. But Maria does. It's not her fault. And if that helped her get some interviews, good for her. I ain't mad at that. We all have to use what we have as connections. But if you watch Maria Taylor, she's good at what she does. She's very good at what she does. So I would say, you can have all the Jalen Roses you want. If you ain't no good, you ain't getting on ESPN. She earned her stripes to get the position that she got. How arrogant do you have to be, just first of all, to say she only got it because she's black or only got it because she's a woman? And especially coming from a lady who a lot of people have said along her career and made her mad, well, you're only there because you're a woman. And they had to have a woman sideline reporter. They had to have a woman that did this and that. So it's just funny how quickly she's the champion for women's rights, but then when it's a black woman, that goes right out the window, right? Don't give me that. So just reading the way that what she said and the perspective that she had, it was really, I'll tell you the first thing I thought was disappointing. Because here's Rachel Nichols. By the way, I'll say this about Rachel Nichols too. Rachel Nichols fought for women on air, right? She was a woman that had to fight against the men and break the glass ceiling. I remember when Rachel Nichols didn't look the way Rachel Nichols looks right now, too. So Rachel Nichols, I think, and I might be way out of pocket, but I don't think I am, she changed her appearance to make herself get a lot of these opportunities at ESPN. She felt that impact from the men that she was working for, that she had to change the way she looked to earn more screen time on ESPN. I've watched the transformation of Rachel Nichols. If you remember Rachel Nichols back in the 90s, she didn't look like Rachel Nichols today. So she felt the pressure that women feel in sports and in entertainment to change herself and give into this, to keep that going. She's done, you know what I'm saying? So she knows what it's like to be fighting against an oppression. But when it came down to her and Maria Taylor, all that went out the window. That was no longer important anymore. And she completely forgot what it was. She didn't forget. Her position on oppression sure did change real fast when it was against her. So I don't know, man. I lost every ounce of respect I have for Rachel Nichols because I've thought about that so many times. Like Rachel Nichols changed everything about herself to get that spot. I know what she's changed physically to get that spot, and I would watch that and be like, oh, man, I kind of lost some respect for her. I used to really think she was just there because she's credible, but then she gave in and changed everything. Now, whatever respect I had left is gone. Based on the way she's acting. That's my take on it. I don't know if I'm way off base with that, but that's what I think of when I think of Rachel Nichols and what she's done.
I think you're very close there. There's a couple things you mentioned which were great points, but one, when you look at intersectionality and you look at the women's, you look at feminism, it doesn't address Black women, at all. Exactly. So when you look at women's suffrage, it didn't address Black women's right to vote. And you had Black women marching with white women. White women have always upheld racism and been very complicit in the acts of racism, wielding their power and their privilege. And then also, white women have been the biggest benefactors of affirmative action. So Rachel Nichols got her job via affirmative action. So how dare you talk about somebody's race coming into play? So Rachel Nichols' road wasn't as hard as a Black woman that has to fight because she doesn't face that intersection. Yes, you know, she's a woman, but she's a white woman.
Well, and that's what, and we talked about this before on the show, but that's what I always tell people that are struggling, white people that are struggling to understand white privilege. Yeah, Rachel Nichols fought some stuff to get where she was at. Now imagine if she was a Black lady, where would she have been? Like, that's the definition of white privilege. You can take your feminism all you want. If you were Black, you wouldn't have gotten those opportunities you had 10, 15 years ago, especially. So you're right, 100%. And it's, you know, so she's already back on air. And
Shocker.
I think part of this that they're letting her get away with, there's two things that I think are allowing her to get away with this more than normal. One, it was a conversation that she didn't know was being recorded. So it wasn't live on air.
But imagine what else she says about Black people as well.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's why she's doing it. She's getting it out. Although she was saying that behind the back. So she did. That was what she was saying when she thought nobody was watching. So we learned a lot about her through that conversation. The second part of it is it was a while ago. So it wasn't recent when she said it. So she can play the whole, I felt some certain way. If she wanted to, she could say, but you know what, last year I really learned a lot about myself through the social injustice of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And I really have my eyes open up, so now I don't feel that way. She's got two outs that are getting her out of this situation. I'm telling you right now, if she had said that live on air, or if that was on an interview last week on Howard Stern, for example, if she was on Howard Stern and said that a week ago, I think she'd be fired. And I don't know that we'd ever hear from her again.
I think she's racist.
I think, well, and here's what I'll say about that. I am an advocate. And what I've learned is even as an advocate, there are things that I say and things that I feel that come from a racist perspective because I come from institutional racism. So most white people are racist in some way or another. I think there's also, there's a lot of layers to racism and what we're finding out and when we're hearing that. Do I think that Rachel Nichols hates white people? I mean, hates Black people? I don't think she does.
But she alluded to her being better because she was white.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So does she hate Black people and wish for their demise? No. And I think that's where people think about racism is they think that it comes from an evil place.
She needs Black people to make her money.
She does, 100%.
Because her career has been built off of Black people.
All of them. I think that I have my eyes open up in a great conversation with somebody that I really just have learned a lot from about racism and my impact and what I can do. And they said, everybody thinks of racist as evil and thinks of racist as
full-scale plan
and the KKK.
Yep.
Racism doesn't always have to come from that element to be there and exist. And just because you don't think you're racist as far as you hate people, you're benefiting off of racist policies. And you're racist as soon as you say, I should have something that person doesn't, and that person doesn't deserve it because I'm white. And they're not. That is racist. So Rachel Nichols, whether she thinks she's racist or not, and whether she thinks she was saying that from a racist place, that's racist. What you said was racist. And that's the conversation that white people need to have. I think there's a lot of white people that are starting to have that conversation and understand that concept more over the last year or so. I've had more people that I'm having that conversation with. But as soon as you get held to the fire, and as soon as you have to be accountable for that, instead of just saying,
why are you being mean to me?
Instead of just saying, you know what, that was racist. I did say something racist there. Instead of coming from a position of saying that is racism, or learning from it.
It's not racist to say Black people are on welfare.
Right.
It's not racist to say they don't have fathers.
Exactly. As soon as you don't take the accountability and atonement too. Atonement doesn't mean you get to go on air, Rachel Nichols, and say, "I'm so sorry. I would never say anything like that. I would never mean to do that." I lose all respect for you there too. I have total respect for people that learn from mistakes and really show true. If they really have true volition that they want to do better and they want to learn from things like that, I'm cool with you making a mistake and learning from it. She's not learning from this. What lesson could she possibly learn when she came out and gave a cheesy fake apology, shed a couple tears, said and white victimization, by the way, right? She's under attack. The headlines I read yesterday, Rachel Nichols under attack for alleged racist comments. First of all, she wasn't under attack. She was just being asked to defend her position. And alleged racist, those weren't alleged racist comments. Those were racist comments.
Look at how the media skews those things.
They whitewash the headlines
to benefit her.
They vilify Maria Taylor.
Yeah, who's done nothing.
Just sat there.
Just doing her job.
She just showed up to work and read the headlines that Rachel Nichols, who I'm guessing, at least on some level, was probably somebody she admired. If not now, if not recently, maybe she got to know Rachel Nichols and she was a horrible person. I don't know.
Well, Adrian Wojnarowski said she wasn't a team player.
I bet.
He put that out there.
I bet. And when Maria Taylor was coming up, I bet you she looked at Rachel Nichols and said, "Wow, look at what she gets to do. I want to be like that. So I want to get that spot."
I looked up to Rachel Nichols. 100%. I covered the Cavs game and she was in town. This was when LeBron was in, and on the finals. You know, I was at town hall and I was, there with some people and I'm like, that's Rachel Nichols.
Right.
Now I'm like, that's Rachel Nichols. But, you brought up a lot of great points again. And it was something that you had hit on, which the victimization and villainize. Yeah. So people always do things to demean and discredit Black people, even though she had did nothing. And they're already tearing her character apart when, like you said, she just showed up to work that day in order to paint her as the Karen or the white 100%. Victim who did nothing wrong but said something racist.
I had no idea that Maria Taylor was related to Jalen Rose until the story broke.
Yeah. Because
they immediately threw that in there to make it seem like that's why she got where she got.
Like other people don't use those connections.
They should. White people do that all the time. That's how systemic racism works.
They have to villainize Black people.
They had to give you a reason to understand that Rachel might be right. Maybe she did just get it.
But they could have left that out the article.
But they won't.
Exactly.
Because if they do that, that changes the whole narrative of our country when they do that. That's the whole thing. And it's, when you start looking at things for the way they really are and you get quote unquote woke, I don't think I'm the most woke dude, but I'm woke enough to see stuff like that. And then I wonder how other people don't. And the reason they don't, at this point in America,
400 years later,
people that don't see that now,
they see it.
Don't want to see it.
They just don't care.
They ignore it.
They don't
want it to be there.
They don't care.
They don't. Well, they do, but they don't want to admit that that's the truth because if it makes the truth, that makes them guilty of something. They don't want to. They don't want to be guilty. They don't want to feel guilty.
But I was just thinking the other night, it's 400 years and we still having to educate white people on what racism is. They know what it is. They just don't care.
100% they do.
They just don't
care. Now, there's nuances to racism that I am still learning as I go. There are nuances to racist speech and patterns that I'm learning because institutionally I wasn't taught. Mm-hmm. I was taught a completely different thing. So I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
But as far as this type of stuff, the only reason that it gets talked about the way it does is because if white people start admitting that this is going on, and they start seeing it, they start acting on it, white people are so scared that they're going to lose their sideline reporting gigs, that they're going to lose their media, that they're going to lose their outlets. They're so scared of that. And I operate from a position of, if we're all equal, I'm still going to win. Like I still want to win. I still feel like I'm going to be successful. Yeah. I don't care who's got it. Let's get out. But there's so many people that are so insecure that they're afraid that if they make things the way they're supposed to be, that they're going to lose. And that's what this is an example of, the way they're covering this. If we really call Rachel Nichols out for doing what she did, white people are going to lose.
Systems are going to fall. But keep in mind, it wasn't about let the best person get the job, or let the best person, best student get into the school until the civil rights was signed, which made racism illegal.
Well, and civil rights weren't equality.
Right, exactly.
Civil rights were give them some basic human rights, like drinking out of water fountains and being in a movie theater.
But that was part of it
different
too,
than
you know, as
equal
far
rights,
as
too.
that discrimination. But it wasn't never let this person get the job until that happened, though.
And let's be honest, that was a shell game anyways.
Yeah.
It was, let's change the narrative, change the verbiage, change the way we describe it, but we're still going to put systems
We're not
in
going
place
to
make
enforce.
sure they're not going to get
Yeah,
equal.
we're not going to enforce.
They're not going to get equal. We're just, you know. So you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And you know, that's part of my white privilege too. I guess saying that I don't mind because I think everybody's going to be all right, and I'm confident enough to think that we can all eat if we're all equal. That's probably my privilege too, because I don't know what we would do if we get to that point. You know,
you pointed out a perfect example because we're about to go to break. But
Yeah.
you pointed out a perfect example how one of the first things that was mentioned in the article was about her relationship to Jalen
Yep.
Rose. So that was an attempt to have the reader have no sympathy for her because
Yep.
she supposedly used her connections to get in. But we all know
Yep.
that the ways of the world are use of connections, but it's different when Black people do it. Black people are not allowed to do that, and Black people are not allowed to be sympathetic figures because
Well,
Marie Taylor can't appear as a sympathetic figure because
Right.
you have to save that sympathy for Rachel Nichols because here's the
Yeah.
white heroine or the poor white woman
Yeah.
like in what was that Klan movie that Woodrow Wilson showed at the White House, the Ku Klux Klan movie, the white Southern belle. You know, because a Black person is going to do something to her. So, you know, Birth of a Nation. So you have to paint Rachel Nichols as this pure white woman when Maria Taylor, she used Jalen Rose to get where she was at, so she don't deserve it.
It's Breonna Taylor.
Yep.
Breonna didn't get shot. Breonna's boyfriend was a drug dealer. Breonna did this. They give you 18 reasons why it's all justified. This is all justified because, it's not because she was Black. It's because Jalen Rose is her nephew. If you don't want to believe the racist thing, believe the nepotism thing, and that'll get resolved. You're right. You know what? Let's come back and talk sports.
We are
back and
talking
talk
sports. We're talking sports, but we'll be right back. This is Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's
Attention listeners. The special congressional primary election will take
but it's
place on
every
Tuesday,
every
August
killer.
3rd, and early in-person voting
You're
has
bringing
begun.
up something that
Mark
happened
your
in elementary
calendars for
school
these
as an
important
attempt to
dates. Monday,
villainize
August
them and
2nd,
not deserve
the
to
last day to
Do you remember
postmark your
when the
absentee
girl got
ballot.
killed
Tuesday,
stepping off the
August 3rd
train
at
in
7:30
the Bay
p.m.
Area
The last
by
day
the
to
white
return
man
your
who just walked
absentee
up to
ballot.
her and started
Your
stabbing
vote
her?
yeah.
So they
Visit
showed the
Cuyahoga
picture,
County
the
Board
news
of
showed a
Elections
picture of
online
her
at
cell phone case was a gun. And then she had thousands of
to
pictures on
check your
social media
status and to
because
request an
KCLA
absentee
apologized,
ballot
even
for
though
the
they did the shit
upcoming
on purpose.
special
They
congressional
apologized
primary
that we didn't
election,
realize
which will
the
take
image. We
place
just
on
grabbed the first
Tuesday,
one. That
August
shit
3rd.
wasn't true because she had
Visit
thousands of
online
images.
at
You know, because that's when Instagram had me.
vote.us.
You know,
This
and
important
that's the
message
picture
is brought to you by the
tried
League
to
of
show
Women
her, or
Voters
they
and
did show her
WOVU
to make her not be a sympathetic
95.9
figure. This
FM.
dude just walked
Our
up and
voices
started
united,
stabbing her out of
a
nowhere.
Bell Car
But that's how
community
they do
radio
it.
station.
You know that bullshit right there.
It's so calculated.
Oh,
You gotta listen, cause you gonna miss
Okay,
it.
who's doing these
95.9.
bars?
TC.
Those are the
I'm gonna go to her and get
That's
a
her
tip.
name. She does the
music,
rap.
good conversation,
She does
good
the rap and
information. Number one station, taking over Cleveland, not just for the weekend. 24/7, day into the evening. We keep on feeding. You just keep eating solutions
TC
on the
does all the
radio.
rap and rap.
WOVU 95.9.
I know I gotta really shut up.
Oh my
I
god.
know you about to light it.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome back to Her in the
Oh, they
Huddle
can see me
with
dancing.
Rachel Hill, the first lady of sports.
All right, welcome back to Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl Rachel Hill, the first lady sports. I am here with Sugar Booger. And I say,
Rachel
Well,
was
say
just
Sugar
doing the
Booger.
Joe Skee-Lo Pee-wee dance. Because our girl TC does the rap and drops. That's our girl TC Lewis doing all
Hey,
those
TC.
rap and drops, just killing it. And man, that prompted Rachel to get up and just do some more of her
The June bud.
arthritic knee dancing that she
Shut
does
up.
around the office. Listen, Kim, your boys down there at the stadium that we just talked about, the team that has no name. I'm gonna start calling them the Cleveland Whiffles.
Whew.
The Whiffles, man, are just not looking real good. And I told you, Rachel, when the Whiffles start playing bad, I lose interest real fast. And I have a feeling that I am going to be paying less and less attention to the Cleveland Whiffles as they sniffle out the rest of this season. What are they going to do to right this? Are they going to make any moves? I know we're not even to the All-Star break yet. Are they going to hold tight because there's not much they can do? Are they just hoping the injury bug subsides and they get some guys back in the second half? What in the world are they going to do down there at Carnegie, Ontario?
The corner, Carnegie, Ontario. I think they're going to stand pat. One thing that the issue is the injuries. There's never been a season that I can think of in which your whole starting rotation is out injured, and the majority of your field players have went out as well. I don't know how many different lineup combinations he's used since the series, but they just lost their 9 in a row. There right now, they have lost 3 out of 4 games against Tampa Bay. So they just played a doubleheader in which both games were lost, and it was bad, 8-1, 4-0. So they put up a fight on the 4th of July, and then for whatever reason, Emmanuel Clase went in after James Karinchak. He got an out and then struck out the other last 2 batters. And then all of a sudden, Tito removes him and puts in J.C. Mejia, and it just or did I say J.C. Mejia? Emmanuel Clase, excuse me. And pretty much he kind of walked home a run because he loaded the bases in the bottom of the 9th for Tampa Bay to come back, because they actually had the lead by one run. Yeah. So they went into that with the lead and blew the save. But like I said, we talked about how there was going to be a rough go if they could go half and half, because they had the Houston Astros. They got swept by them. It looks like they're about to get swept by Tampa Bay. They come back and they play.
They got Casey after this.
Okay. Oh, God. They still got more games against Tampa Bay?
No, they got Casey. No, Tampa Bay is done.
Okay.
We move on to Kansas City.
Okay.
At a homestand. The Bend. At the A's, we're playing good ball. At the Astros, we're playing good.
Just swept us.
Back against the Rays. You know, it's like a gauntlet. It just doesn't stop. Cardinals after that weren't terrible. They're out where
2
we
games
are,
set against
but healthier. They're healthier than us. So you got the card, you know. So there's no reprieve in sight for the next month. Like, they're playing quality teams for the next month. And I know you just try to withstand it. And they're clinging to second place somehow. Still about 3.5 games up on second place.
Because Chicago's losing.
Chicago's horrible too. So it's like, but how long can they?
There's still a chance. There's still a chance.
They got to get.
Can you believe it?
What can we do to get these guys healthy? Can we get them some smoothies, some protein shakes?
Take their brains and put them in different bodies.
That's the only hope.
That's the only hope. They officially designated Josh Naylor for the 60-day IL, where I don't know why they're acting like there was a chance he possibly was going to come back. We knew it wasn't. A broken ankle and torn ligaments. Yeah, right. We'll see him next year. Sorry, Josh, because he was playing really well for us. But right now, there's no hope. And, you know, Tito was talking about in the press conference that they don't have the, oh, woe was me attitude. But there's only so much magic you can pull out of a hat.
Well, it's not just the pitching staff either. Their bats. I mean,
they're not hitting the ball.
The last few games, I mean, they've scored 1 run, no runs, 1 run. Like they aren't hitting. So we can say that our pitching staff is down, but we're not losing, 3-2 or anything like that. We're getting smoked 8-1 and 4-0.
Shellacked.
So, not much to talk about when it comes to the Cleveland Lift right now. They're having a rough stretch. So that means that what I've been doing is I've been watching basketball. And last night, I think we saw the way this series. Now, NBA Finals, notoriously, the refs are going to play an impact. I will say this. Phoenix looked great last night. They also got every call. The disparity in the free throws was pretty obvious. But also, Phoenix was going to the hole and drawing the foul, and Milwaukee was not getting penetration and was not going to the hole. So I get that people
was Giannis not getting penetration though?
Yeah, but here's the thing about a guy like Giannis though. When you're a big guy, you look at Shaq. That's always the thing. When you look at LeBron,
most big guys was. Oh, I thought you was about to start talking about the free throws. How he can't make them.
No, you just don't get the calls because it doesn't look like you're getting fouled. That's what happens with LeBron a lot of times. People talk about him flopping. It's because if he doesn't flop, you don't know he got hit. You'd have to hit him with a sledgehammer to make it look like he got hit. I don't blame LeBron for some of the flopping he does.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you hit it on the head, Giannis needs to get some calls. I agree with you, but they need some of their guards to penetrate and get calls so they can actually hit the free throw.
Yeah, drive and kick.
That's what Phoenix
dribble, drive, penetration.
Is it not fun to watch Phoenix play?
I can't stand Phoenix.
Why?
So I was torn. I talked about this yesterday.
Historically, or just this particular?
Historically,
Phoenix?
Because they were the last state to recognize Martin Luther King, and the rankings of segregated cities came out, and Milwaukee ranks number 3 as the most segregated city in America.
Really?
So yeah, Cleveland's on that list too.
I was top 20.
Used to be 3. Top 20.
It used to be Boston, Chicago, Cleveland.
Yeah, top 20. Yeah, they just came out like early this week, last week.
I'll have to check
so those are the reasons why I'm torn. Milwaukee has won a title. Phoenix never has, but for whatever reason, I don't really know. I have no dog in the race. I'll kind of look towards Eastern Conference. I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm leaning towards Milwaukee a little bit. I have no idea why.
I started leaning towards Milwaukee when they won, and their city looks so much like our city. I've told you before,
they're like a
very
sister
kindred cities, but they look like us. So I like that. But watching Phoenix play,
oh yeah, they remind me of the Warriors.
They're fun to watch, but they're the Warriors without all the. I mean, I know they have Chris Paul, and that was a big thing. But with Booker being young, I guess he's like your young Tristan. You're right in a lot of ways. They're like Warriors. But they're just so selfless, and they run an offense, and they move the ball, and then their team defense does not get enough credit. Their switches and their team game on defense is crazy. It's a throwback to an 80s NBA team to me when I'm watching them. Is this an enigma? Is this a team like is winning this year? It seems to be kind of a weird year again, and COVID was weird, and this is kind of a weird year. We've talked about, like you said, Golden State isn't there right now. Brooklyn was hurt towards the end of the year. The Lakers got hurt towards the year. Are we going to see a team like Phoenix be able to win again? Or is this their year? Phoenix and Milwaukee?
I think this is their year, but it's so exciting to not have the Blue Bloods in the finals. It's so exciting for me.
I think it is. Kind of. But I also would love to see LeBron in the finals. I still like that. I still want, and
I know because he's from here. You want that for him. You want him to get more rings, but
it's not just him. Here's what I mean by that. Hear me out on
who else would you be rooting for?
Here's what I mean. Right now, we've got 2 kind of quote unquote underdog teams. You gotta hear what I'm saying. Right now, you got Giannis and either Chris Paul or Booker, depending on who you're talking to, that they're really watching.
Give it to Paul. He's been in the league 16 years.
He's been in there forever. But you don't have an underdog story.
No, you do not.
So I either like to have an underdog and somebody I want to see knock them off, or 2 titans that are fighting. Now,
they're both underdogs.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't
work.
Why not?
You got that don't work for Sugar Booger.
Don't work for me. I don't need 2 underdogs.
Stop centering yourself, Ryan Gilkerson. You're centering yourself.
Doggone right. Hey, let me use my white privilege one time. All right, this is the only time I'm pull it out. But as a middle-aged white guy, this is what I want out of basketball. There's not a compelling story when you've got 2 underdogs.
You say middle-aged white guy.
Yeah, can I get my soapbox with that? It's not compelling to me to watch 2 underdogs. It wasn't Little Mac's Punch Out. You didn't have Little Mac go all the way through Punch Out so we could fight Little Mac at the end. He fought Mike Tyson.
But look at so these 2 underdog stories are good though, because if you think about it, nobody expected either one of these teams to be here. So they are the underdogs. Right. Unfortunately, they have to go against each other. But the underdog narratives are there because what they had to fight through, because in the Western Conference, you need 70 wins to get the 8th seed normally. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they had to battle through all that. They still had to knock off. Who do they play in? The Clippers. Yeah, but think about them going up against the Lakers. That type of stuff. That's who you think that they would see in the Western Conference Finals.
I want to see somebody have to take out.
It's okay. It's just 1 year.
Ric Flair, the poet laureate, Charlotte, North Carolina. He said, to be the man, You got to beat the man.
They beat the man.
In completely sexist terminology that's inappropriate, but it's 75. There is no man to beat this year. There's no quote unquote man to beat. The men were already beaten. They were hurt. They were hobbled. There was no man. There was no Goliath. Everybody was hurt, bro.
They beat everybody, and they are the team that made it through the gauntlet. They did what they're supposed to do. It's not their fault that LeBron supporting cast sucks.
Doesn't make for a compelling fight.
But it's compelling to them. That's all that matters. It's compelling to them.
Well, I guess we'll see when the ratings come out.
They'll be like,
let's see what happens.
Ryan Gilkerson from Painesville, Ohio, said that there is not enough intrigue and drama in our underdog story about how we made it here isn't good enough. For Milwaukee Bucks, our story about how we beat what people thought was the best team in basketball,
that was hurt, and it lost
Kevin Durant
because what happened?
Kyrie
got
was out,
hurt,
but
and
you still had
everybody
James
said,
Harden and Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but they still had that excuse. It didn't have
ISO game. Still had it.
If Milwaukee had beaten them with Kyrie, we would have a different narrative. They had an excuse, and that's why they're not getting the love.
But they were the better team in that instance, and now they're getting their flowers. Win or not, they're getting their flowers right now. Both teams are getting their flowers. It's not their fault what has happened this year. And it is an off year, but I am glad to not have the Blue Bloods in there and not have one of these East Coast teams. And look at Phoenix's story, how they have not been able, they couldn't get past Michael Jordan and all those other things. And then Chris Paul comes into the Valley. But somebody was like, they wanted to know how come Phoenix was called their sons, but there's only one son in like the galaxy. I'm like, that's a good point.
They are multiple sons. Each one of them.
But I'm like, that's a good point. But look at, the story about, you could say that there were the basketball Cleveland Browns, how they couldn't get past the Lakers in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, in the early 2000s, Steve Nash and that team, they were good. They couldn't do it. So you had to look at that. Milwaukee, Jeffrey Dahmer was there.
If they beat Michael Jordan, I'll be behind him. But unfortunately, he's retired. And they're not beating any. They beat Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Yeah, but
not quite the same.
Milwaukee is a Rust Belt city. Industry is big there. Everybody, blue collar, bring your lunch pail to work. You got Laverne and Shirley, milk and Pepsi taste great together. Yeah. And you got Jeffrey Dahmer. So, is
Miller's over there.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple different narratives. It just depends on which one you're gonna pick.
Miller and Budweiser. Now there is a battle of titans I can get behind.
Yeah, all right. Well, we're gonna have to take another break. We will be right back. You're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Attention drivers. For over a year, the state of Ohio has allowed the use of expired licenses and vehicle registration due to the pandemic, leading to the closure of thousands of motor vehicles locations. However, Ohio ended this grace period on July 1st, which means that you may receive a ticket worth hundreds of dollars if you are found driving with expired information.
They were beautiful.
Therefore, it is imperative to renew yours as soon as possible. Hundreds of thousands of Ohioans will also be renewed, which means long lines, intense men standing in the sun and pouring rain. You have options to renew. Go online to bmv.ohio.gov to learn how. Do not delay. If you have an expired driver's license or vehicle registration, renew your information as soon as possible to avoid hundreds of dollars in tickets. Visit an Ohio BMV in person or online at bmv.ohio.gov. This also goes for parking. All of those free parking meters on the streets will be going away too. So be sure to drop those quarters in so that your car doesn't get the boot. Renew your license and registration ASAP and pay to park on the streets during posted hours. This important message is brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Car community radio station.
This is AJ Jones,
Tracy Clark, Shalonda Armstrong,
Brian Webster.
This is TC Lewis, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU and 95.9 FM. Remember, you can always give us a call at 216-271-0959. You can listen online at WOVU.org. And also make sure you download that WOVU app so you can listen to all your favorite personalities on the go like me. Yeah. So, Ryan, what do you want to tackle next out of our production topics?
I want to talk, you had the great talk about how the mayor in the NHL.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get into that, though,
that'll be a quick one.
We didn't touch real quickly on Columbus Blue Jacks goalie Matisse Kivlenieks. I butchered that name. I apologize for that. But died of chest trauma. This is from AP News, by the way. Died of chest trauma from an errant fireworks mortar blast, and what authorities described Monday as a tragic accident at a Michigan home on the 4th of July. He was in a hot tub. He tried to get clear from several people when it went off. And then he had died of an apparent head injury during a fall, they thought at first, but then it turned out that the mortar blast injured his chest. So that is just tragic, so sad. That's why people shouldn't be letting off all them fireworks in the first place.
Yeah, as we talked about that.
Shouldn't be doing that in the first place, Rachel.
What's that one guy, John, that played for the Giants?
Oh, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Finger off. Yeah,
exactly. And fortunately, that is a comeback story. That is an underdog story. Yes, he's still playing good ball right now. Yeah. But yeah, just stuff like that. We see how dangerous fireworks are. And I don't know if you remember in the 80s and 90s, like the M80s and stuff, that people were always launching and all that other stuff. So it was just, this is a scary thing. So,
So what city's dummy mayor said that they should lose on the road?
Tampa Bay.
It was Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Because they're sweeping Montreal right now. That series has not been close.
Yeah, they were. And literally they did go out and lose. They didn't lose on purpose. But there was a sweep taking place. And then they actually did lose. No, I don't believe in that stuff. But the mayor was like, y'all should lose and win at home so y'all can clinch at home. I'm like, what real athlete isn't going to take glory in winning a national championship and a sweep? Yeah. That's just extra sweet. And they don't want to go out and play no more. They didn't play the whole hockey season. Right. I don't want to play no more. I'm going to beat you, and that's going to be that.
And then the NHL, they get to take the trophy wherever they want anyways. That's the best. That is the best celebration, I think, in all of sports, what they do with that cup ticket. All over the country. They travel. They tour around with it. Yeah. It don't matter where you win the Stanley Cup. That is a party for like a month and a half after you win the Stanley Cup. I don't watch. Have you watched any?
Tampa Bay, they won last year, so they set up for a repeat. I just haven't. I've been doing a lot of NBA and baseball, so it's really hard for me.
Fun NBA playoffs.
And really typically, I will watch the Stanley Cup Finals because I'll never forget that one game. I think it was between Boston and maybe the Chicago Blackhawks, and I was invested in that game. I stayed up until like 2:00 in the morning because one of the goalies had like 60+ saves. It was something bananas. But I was like, I'm not going to bed right now. I've been up the whole time. Just like one of the World Series games, it was against. It might have been against Houston and the Dodgers, and they went until almost 4:00 in the morning because they played 18 innings.
I remember you
talking about that. I was like, I'm not going to bed. I stayed up the whole.
I'm here now.
This is my life now. When I'm invested, I'm like, I'm not about to be not watching this at this certain point. I want to see what happens.
I think if Cleveland had an NHL team, I would enjoy it. But since we don't, I will
support it.
No, I don't. Well, and I don't know why they wouldn't. I go to Monsters games. I enjoy it when I'm there. I wouldn't watch them on TV, but I like going to hockey games. I think it's fun. We have a great high school hockey area here. There's a lot of really good high school hockey in this area. There's a lot of good traveling teams in this area. But I don't know why, but I don't think we would support an NHL team. I just don't think. I think we've got too much vested with football here to care. I mean, NBA, I really don't know how the Cavs make it with the Browns sometimes. The season goes longer. It goes, different season, I guess. But you wonder how the Cavs even survive. I don't think there's room enough for another team. But you look at a Pittsburgh, they have they don't have basketball.
Well, the Cavs have benefited off of the Browns being so bad.
Yes,
and you had the LeBron years. LeBron only been gone, year 4 now? It's like all blending together. But I think they benefited off of the Browns being so bad. and LeBron being LeBron James. So they benefited off of that. But, we don't support the baseball team anymore. Remember how many sellouts we had, consecutive sellouts we had. And now, you go there on a good night, it's 13,000.
Which is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to
I don't think they plan on moving this. It's hard with the margins and with COVID happening and the Dolans being who they are. And Chris Antonetti did admit that there are going to be ramifications because, we already have the lowest, payroll in the league already. I think it'll be affected that. I don't think they're going to move because you thought that they're mad about a name change.
Well, I thought from a business perspective that name change was part of it. Like when you strip down the name, they don't have that burden anymore. A team could really start fresh with that organization because they got to change the name anyways. You can kind of get a fresh start if you're picking up the Cleveland baseball team, and they can start over again in whatever city they want to start in. The big problem with it is the contract for the stadium right now. That's going to come up pretty soon. Their lease is up in a couple years. I believe the lease is up in 2 years, which is when they were talking about changing the name at first. Whenever the name change happens, right around the time the lease happens.
I thought it was supposed to happen after this season.
Yeah. So, and I think that's when the lease is up. Am I wrong?
I think 2 years on that
2
lease.
years. Okay.
I think
It's just weird timing. Probably just weird timing. But all right, so let me ask you this: if the Indians were to go somewhere, or the Cleveland baseball team were to go somewhere, excuse me, it's my first slip up on the team name. If the Cleveland baseball team were to go somewhere else. And would that open the door for an NHL team, or is it still winter season?
I don't think so. If I was an NHL owner, there's no way I would look to come here because you just lost the team.
The thing with NHL teams too is they're going to hot weather climates where they don't have as much competition.
Tampa Bay.
Yep, they don't have as much. Tampa Bay only had football, and then they had the baseball team that really wasn't as popular.
But remember, they were expansion team.
Yeah,
so Tampa Bay was an expansion team
back in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, they went down there, and then Phoenix had a team, and then Dallas had a team. Like, they started to expand to warm weather cities because
it's weird that I think we last, had our last hockey team was like in the 70s, but it's just very weird that it's because of the Browns. The Browns got a lock, and they know that. So they know that for all these years, they put together inferior product, and people still would go see them and wouldn't support anything else.
If these other teams want to get rid of the Browns, they will implement those uniforms that you put up yesterday, and the Browns will be run out of the city, and that will be the end of the Cleveland Browns. There will be no
I can't believe somebody literally did block me. They were like, "I'm going to block you."
I wanted to block
me. I went. They still my friend and said I'm blocked.
You should be. You should be blocked for that travesty of a uniform you put up.
I mean, like, how you gonna do something like that to me?
It was embarrassing.
No, it wasn't. I thought these, would y'all like these all-chain uniforms? No. It wasn't anything that I did. No. Look at this intersectionality that I'm having to deal with.
Oh, here she goes. She's bringing it full circle. That's why she's the best in the business.
Yeah, man. I'm having to deal with both. But we didn't even get to that. We can say that for next week. But we didn't even get to my experiences because I remember you said you wanted to talk about that.
Well, I know that you have
I have stories.
Some different stories.
Yeah, I've had a different experience as well. But, we, just keep fighting and battling. And that's all I can really do, I love WOVU, but if ESPN did call, even though they're toxic, I'm not going to say I wouldn't entertain that phone call at all. Not going to say I wouldn't take it. And listen.
I heard Rachel Nichols is looking for a new co-host.
Man, I wouldn't want to co-host with her.
What would they do if they did that? What would you do?
I take it, but
they're going to give you $1 million.
Love you, Jay. I'm out.
It's called Rachel and Rachel.
Oh my God. The Rachels.
You're like, sign that check. Well, I'll get over it. I'll teach her.
Yeah.
Listen, we got to get up out of here. And up next on Radio Silence, I know waiting in the other room, my guy Keith Langford from the Shaker Schools is here, and we're talking about a new framework that I only mentioned Shaker because I know how excited you'd be.
Alumni, baby.
But we're talking about a whole new framework that the state is using to talk about the development, the education, and the nurturing of our children. It's really dope. So I can't wait to talk about that.
And they're finally going to fund schools constitutionally like they were supposed to have been 20 years ago.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, separate but unequal. And they're finally going to do right. But you'd be amazed at the amount of people who do not know that. But, we got to go ahead and get out of here for the first lady of sports. And Sugar Booger, who's going to be right back. Her in the Huddle. We are out of here.